All right. Well, this question's for Nick. So again, thank you everyone for joining up with the webinar and sharing your experience is with us. And I guess Nick, to build on what you told us about what you do, we noticed that you worked in industries other than renewable energy before. So we're just wondering kind of how you got from where you started working after at your education to where you are now, and kind of what steps kind of went into that transition.
Right. So I actually think my transition has been very interesting. When I was at UW-Madison as an undergraduate, my degree was International Studies Global Security. And I was very focused on global security. I actually wanted to work in the intelligence community out in Washington. And during a final semester in Madison, I was fortunate enough to be able to intern at the State Department. And I was exposed to kind of government work at the State Department, a lot of paper pushing and very uninteresting things happening. The department I actually worked for in state worked with the United Nations. So it was for a good cause, but a lot of what we did there was simply paper. Getting a resolution passed that didn't mean anything at the end of the day. And so that kind of got me thinking, this isn't really what I want to go into. I'd like to do something that's much more proactive. I'd always had an interest in the climate and nature. And during my time at State, I was actually able to participate in something called the Major Economies Meetings. That was basically, I was there in 2007, and that was during the Bush era. And that was kind of their little offshoot of, UN and UN climate change negotiations. So they were holding those at the State Department. And I was talking to a BBC environmental correspondent that was there. And he asked, what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm in International Studies Global Security. And he mentioned something about global security issues that I hadn't thought about. I was always thinking about terrorism and war and things like that. And he brought up the environmental issues that we're going to face: water shortages, mineral shortages, resource wars. And so I went back to Madison for a final semester and took a course on global environmental challenges, basically, and solutions to them. I read a book called Apollo's Fire, which I thought was actually very inspiring, and that really transitioned my interest to energy. And after doing some international development work, basically in the Milwaukee area, I decided to go back to school and found a program at Johns Hopkins that focused on energy policy and climate, and that kind of fostered my transition into first working for an environmental nonprofit. We're actually focused on transportation issues, to then coming to Distributed Sun as an intern, and then working my way from an intern up to a full and paid position. But it was really kind of just honing where I wanted to focus my interests, and kind of just figuring out along the way what really what worked for me. And I'm very happy. I eventually made up my mind I wanted to go into renewable energy, and the process, it took a little longer than I would have liked, but it actually got me there in the end of the day.